Welcome to Sons of the Warrior, episode 6. Hey, we've made it, guys.
Nice. And we have the one and only Mr. Tom Osborne. Yes. Tell us a little bit about Tom Osborne, Joseph.
Okay, so we have the man, the myth, the legend. We have Tom Osborne. One day he came in the gun store, I don't know, like 6,
Long
7,
time ago.
8, 10 years ago. I don't even know how many. It was basically a lifetime ago. And he was like, hey, man,
galaxy far,
you
far
know,
away.
I was on the out and about, not on the run, but on just like living in the gun store.
Yes.
And Tom was like, you want to go shooting? So we went shooting. And the next day he's like, you want to move in my apartment? And I was like, all right, guy, please don't kill me. But so that's how I met Tom. And
Joey
so
got the stories on it.
I don't think it quite went that way, but okay.
So,
Pretty much
man, it was
verbatim.
That is exactly how it went. And I was living on a bed in Tom's living room, and it was nice.
Beautiful.
You know, had a friend, had someone to go shooting with. You know, and then now we got Tom. He's president of the Republican Assembly of Polk County. That's a new Republican Party that's starting here, and we're gonna have him just talk about maybe what it's like to get more active in local politics. Maybe some of the issues that are pressing in our society that maybe are getting overlooked. You know, just a plethora of things are about to be laid out in a very. I was going somewhere, but
Perplexed.
Well, sort of what brought
That's
him
the word I was
to
thinking about.
that, you know, drove him to get involved.
Yes.
'Cause
Yeah.
you were a Jehovah's Witness.
Yes, I
So
grew up
you-
Jehovah's Witness.
You were
That is true.
not politically active, like, at all.
Nothing.
yeah. And if I met a few Jehovah's Witnesses, I mean, it's a miracle that Tom is the man he is today. Praise the Lord. You know, they don't primarily they don't like guns. I'm pretty sure they're not for self-defense.
I think it's changing a little bit now.
Yeah.
But when I grew up, it was pretty much, no guns for self-defense, hunting only.
So, you know, he's kind of an anomaly. You know, he's maybe like the one from from The Matrix. We got Mr. Neo with us today.
Isn't that cool?
He has broken the mold.
Oh, man. Wow, you were
Wow,
hyping this
I didn't
man
realize
up.
that. Tom, the truth sayer, he's trying to open your eyes to the matrons.
Red pill, yeah.
Matrix. I'm sorry, I just speak autism.
Word.
That's all right, man.
If autism was a language,
That'd
it
be
would
my
Johnny.
language. Anyways, Tom the man. Tell us a little bit about the weight of being a president of anything, because back in the day when I was in kindergarten, I was actually the president of my class. It was all my brothers. And
You were
well,
homeschooled.
I was about to say, you guys were all born at different times, so it was a class of one.
and
man
I was
by
the
himself.
president. I was the president, and there was a lot of pressure. All right, because I had to keep everybody together, and maybe it was just me knowing that I was the only president. But
Hey,
anyways, I just know what it's like to be a president. All right. But anyways, Tom, you're more of a president. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I haven't really been doing this that long. I will say it is a lot of pressure. A lot of times I've just kind of been like, do I really want to do this? There's a lot of work involved.
Yeah,
But then there's other people that are kind of counting on you to do it.
that's it.
And that's where then the responsibility kicks in. You have to do what you got to do.
That's right.
And this is a man who didn't want the position. He didn't go seeking fame and fortune. It just
I don't know if
found
there's
him,
fame
even though
and
there's no
fortune in
fame
this.
and fortune to be had. But you know what I mean.
That's what I'm talking
My
about.
man was like, I don't want to be president. Please do not vote for me.
Yes.
22 hands went up during the assembly.
Tom is the man.
And now Tom's president, whether he liked it or not.
Yes.
well,
know,
I don't think
The
it would
reason
have
behind
happened
that. Yeah.
without you and without the efforts that
He
you
did
put
the research. He
to
did the.
get people to show up. Because that's a big thing for conservatives. We don't show up to stuff. You know, we'll show up to vote, you know, once every 4 years. But as far as local politics or stuff, we just don't want to get active. We want somebody else to do it.
Which why do we think that is? Is it because we don't want like our names on a list? Don't worry, your name's already on a list. So like, that's not a worry.
I think I have a list to keep track of the list I'm on at this point.
That's good.
I don't know if it's that we're worried about being on a list. Some of it may be, but
I think it's you want to be involved in your own life, and there's so much stuff going on in your own life, you just forget about all this.
Yeah. No, I think that's about it. Because conservatives are mostly blue collar type. It's a huge number of us, and you're constantly working, constantly doing something, and it's hard to make time to show up.
Yeah.
Unless you're just either retired or
And
really
that's
don't
usually
have
how
that
it
much
is.
going on. It's hard
or
to show
independently wealthy where you can take a little bit of time. But a lot of time we think it's common sense too. It's like, oh, I won't have to show up for that because it shouldn't even be an issue.
Yeah.
It should be so just straightforward, but it is so often.
Yeah.
Or maybe we're passing the buck. We go, someone else is going to show up.
Wow.
Wow,
Wow.
that's the
That's
worst
true.
mistake you can make because the other
That's it.
24 guys behind you are also saying the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, they're
Until
looking
that
at you
one
up front
crazy-
up there going,
He's not going. I'm not going.
he's going. We don't have to. You know?
I catch myself doing that
Until that
all the
one
time.
crazy person's just itching to bits at his chance, and then he turns the whole thing upside down because no one stood in the gap and stood up and said
All I gotta
anything.
say is, how many times have you said "itch in the bits"?
Well,
Itching the
it's a cool
bits.
word, and like I say, I speak autism. So.
I don't know.
Sorry.
I thought it was
Is that
something
even an
else.
actual turn of phrase?
Yeah, itching to bits. I'm telling you, it's real.
Oh,
I
is
hear it all
where
the time.
the horse is just chewing on the
Yeah, chewing on the bit.
right in the okay.
No, I
Yeah.
don't think that's what it is.
Oh, okay.
I think it's chomping at the bit.
Chomping
That's
at
what
the
it
bit.
is.
That's it.
Man, my brain was sitting. I'm going, come on. Find the right answer. Multiple choice. Get her going in your head. And I started going through scenarios.
Yeah, but anyways, chomping at the bits for his chance of fame and fortune, and he's going to turn the whole thing upside down because he's a crazy person, and there's lined up and a lot of those people out there. And so people with common sense that stood up and said, all right, this is my Tom. Let me do what I'm supposed to do and not just talk about it, but be about it. And that's Mr. Tom.
That's what we're
And,
trying to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was awesome when he came to us. I think it was Sunday. He's like, "Hey, I need 20 people to show up so we can start this group, a group of like-minded believers and people to start getting into local politics." And how many we have? Almost 30 showed
Yes.
up, and it was awesome. A lot of young people. And it was cool to see that. But I think it's neat because, Tom, where he comes from, it was, we just got done with all January 6th stuff. Tom's also a Jan 6er. Got thrown in, he was starting to go to trial and everything else. Or were you already past trial?
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
was already convicted
Oh, okay. Already convicted, yeah.
Guilty.
And,
on all counts.
guilty on all accounts like everybody.
Where
And
was
it was
that
so
going?
sad because we never thought Tom was going to be, even in the picture, because all of his evidence was the cops beating him up. Literally.
For the most
He was
part.
just sitting there walking and then getting wailed on. And so we're like, oh, yeah, they're not going to show that. And they ended up showing it and saying, yeah, it's Tom's fault.
Well, one of Tom's, I don't want to change, but the FBI literally had approached you and said, we're not going to prosecute you
Yes.
if you testify. If you share with us, hey, we're going to just take your testimony and that's it. We're not going to come at you, because they really didn't have anything to come at you with. So it made sense. Okay, I'll go testify, and then, you leave me alone. 3 years later, they're like, boom,
Bearcat,
raid your house.
night vision.
It wasn't
Yeah.
necessarily
Walk us through-
testify
walk us
either. It
through.
was answer questions. That was
Yes.
because testify means you went to court. And
Well,
right?
you
Or no?
did a sit down, so it was
Okay.
recorded like a sort of like a subpoena, where you go in and you just have a sit down with them, and they ask you questions, and you.
Which they didn't let you use all of that, did they?
No,
As
no, they
evidence?
didn't. They didn't want that used because in that the FBI agent there, Tim Taylor, he had told me straight that I didn't go in the Capitol, I didn't hurt anybody, didn't break anything, didn't steal anything. They weren't looking for me, but I kind of knew that was bull at the time because on the FBI's website I can see me.
Yeah.
So I had this
Wanted,
guy telling me,
guy.
"Oh, yeah, we're not looking for you." but
Well,
there's my picture.
What was your nickname
Yeah, I'm
on
a little
Twitter?
jealous.
X?
Big red torso.
Yeah.
Tom
Nice.
made it to the FBI's most wanted list, and I didn't.
Yeah.
No,
Wow.
you did. You were on there.
Did I
once.
eventually get on there? Because I wasn't on there for a long time.
I don't know. I
But
didn't keep
good
track
job, Tom.
past that.
Yeah, I don't know. I know you were all over Twitter,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Which
I thought
to
you
say,
were after
to
the
say
second-
that
the
those
second time.
pages.
Well, the second
weren't-
time I probably was. But
Yeah.
After the first one, I wasn't.
Yeah. To say that those pages weren't run by the FBI.
Aquacoms?
Yeah, Aquacoms.
No, they were definitely ran by them.
Oh,
They're just they lie to you so much.
Yes. No, they had fake FBI accounts. What was it? Capital Hunters or something?
Oh yeah,
Different
sedition hunters.
Yeah, sedition hunters, different ones where they would post pictures, and it's like, how do you have these pictures? These are not necessarily classified, but these are secure documents, and then they would be posting them up all over Twitter. It's like, if this isn't an FBI affiliate page, how do you have these photos?
Yeah.
Right.
There's no way that you have these photos without being somehow connected. Oh no, we're not connected to the FBI at all. Bull crap.
Yeah. And I think that's what we want to kind of talk about is just the government corruption that's going on.
We ain't got enough time.
That's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I mean that was my biggest takeaway from the whole thing. So after January 6th, I really started reading the Constitution and actually trying to understand it. Where in the past I never did. Mm-hmm. I never really was involved in politics. Never really understood any of it. But this forced me to do that. And then once you start reading the Constitution, you realize that you don't have rights anymore.
Yeah.
They say you do, but you don't. There's not one that's not been violated at this point. So they're not protected at all.
Yeah.
And then you start looking at the different things that they're doing and comparing and contrasting what our government does. And it's like, what values do we have? Everything is really just about persecuting whoever it is that they want to at that particular time.
Yeah. And then put a Band-Aid over it and act like, oh, yeah, this was a special occasion. It will never happen again.
Right.
Until they need to use it again. And then they'll go back to that law that they made years ago and capture somebody else or round up another group of people. And
Yeah.
So old rules for thee and not for me.
Well, I feel like it's outlined very clearly with Trump talking about possibly doing away with habeas corpus, rounding up the illegals. The left is all over the place. Hey, we can't do that. We can't round up the illegals. But when it was happening to us, when we weren't getting due process, when we were being jailed for extended periods of time without any chance of getting to trial, where was the outcry? Where was the
And multiple J6ers filed writs of habeas corpus.
yeah.
and it just
I know old
turned a blind eye.
Gregory Purdy.
Greg Purdy did. And they make it almost impossible. They pretty much almost any document or anything you file with the courts that would actually be helpful.
Yeah.
Like habeas corpus, or they'll say, well, that's for appeals. You can't do that now. They're always looking for a reason to just go ahead and shut you down 100% to make sure you have no rights.
Yeah.
You
No,
know,
the federal because y'all got a very close look at how corrupt the federal court system is, and I think there's a reason that they don't allow you to carry video cameras into federal courtrooms. State level is one thing; it's out of hand even on the state level. We saw that with Sam's trial and different things, but the federal court system is on a whole nother level. Just the corruption and just how they stonewall you, how you as a defendant have like zero rights.
Yeah.
To be able to defend your case and present your case. You had your case is pretty unique. Your attorney was an actual like high level defense attorney. He worked here in Tampa with some of the big time cases and got a lot of people off. And what did he tell you on?
Oh, that there was no way that we were going to win this because it was all political. It had nothing to do with what I did.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And he's in deep into some of those. Like his best friend was Pam Bondi,
Yes.
They actually hung out, and that was his lawyer bringing his case, which should have been a cut and dry case. All the evidence was stacked against the state, and you still got convicted guilty.
Correct.
Boom. All
I
charged.
mean, they put 3 attorneys from the EPA. Well, none of these people, the Environmental Protection Agency, they're not going to be Trumpers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of them would say to the judge, like, when the judge was asking their opinion of January 6th, well, they were really scared, but they could put their own personal opinion aside to be fair. It's like, no, you can't. Isn't that supposed to,
And it's actually it's crazy. And I know they say they can be unbiased, but like our lawyers, Democrats, the prosecution, Democrats, our judge, a Republican appointed by Trump, Democrat. I mean, it was very one-sided, and so yeah, it was like a brick wall. Everything you did had no progress whatsoever. And I had some verses before we get too far away.
Yeah, get into the verse, man.
From talking about injustice and how rules for thee, not for me, the protected class, they want to give rights to the illegals, but then deny it to their own citizens.
Yeah.
So we have Deuteronomy 13 all the way to 15. Thou shalt not have any bag of diverse weights, great and small. Thou shalt not have thine house diverse measures, a great and a small. But thou shalt have perfect and just weight, a perfect and just measure shalt thou have, that thy days may be lengthened in the land which the Lord give thee. For all that do such things and all that do unrighteously are an abomination unto the Lord. And here he's what's it called? Personifying. He's showing you pictures so you can understand. Yeah. But the point necessarily isn't the bag or the weights. God doesn't like unjust things. He doesn't like things when they're out of order, when they're out of balance. There it is. Nice. And so he's giving them an example. And if you do have unbalance, if you do have things that are clearly unjust, God says that's unrighteous. You're not going to have.
He goes beyond, because I did a study on that when I was in jail of abominations and what does God think? Because abominations, I feel like it's like the next level of, or like God put it at a very high level of sin as far as like he highlights it. And over and over again is when you do unrighteousness to innocent people, or you pick on,
the innocent.
Why can't I think of the word I'm thinking of?
Like poor people, like not necessarily poor, but like poor as in weaker.
Yeah.
Unjust scales.
My brain is just
you got it.
We're cutting this one out.
No, we get what you mean, and we have old Proverbs 11 here also.
Yes.
Just one verse. Gotta love the Proverbs. He says, "A false balance is abomination to the Lord."
Boom.
But a just weight is His delight.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, read that again because I interrupted you.
Yeah.
Right.
A false balance is abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is His delight.
Yeah.
It says it again. The importance, the emphasis that it put, because going back to last week, what we were talking about with Romans 13, how much weight and power you have as a authority, as a God-given authority, through elections, through whether you're a judge that was appointed, when you hold that office of authority, the importance that the Lord puts on you being just, doing right, doing justice, you can't argue with it, because over and over again through Scripture he talks about, the verses that you just read. It is an abomination for them to perform injustices. Mm-hmm. And that's what we really saw over and over again in the last 4 years. I think it really brought to light, though, how corrupt and how much we have just ignored over the last probably 40 years, how it's just slowly escalated and more of our rights have been eroded away until you're just left, like you'd said,
there is
with none. you have a hollow constitution. Yes, you have a constitution that is designed to protect you from a runaway government and protect your liberties, protect your rights.
But it's crazy. You actually try to use that in court, and they don't care. It has nothing to do with court law.
It's case law.
Case law only.
Doesn't matter what's in the Constitution.
And Constitution is just, it's out there. We don't use it.
It's guidelines at this point.
What is it? That's our law. That's what our law is based off of. But you try to bring that in to defend yourself your rights are given by our Constitution or our Bill of Rights. They don't want to hear it.
What's crazy to me is that lawyers don't even they get through
they don't
law
even study
school,
that. Yeah.
and they haven't even read the Constitution all the way through. Like, that's what my lawyer said. Went all the way through law school, and she's like, I don't even think I read the Constitution.
Well, because it's not.
She's like, it was just case
Yeah.
law. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
You go through and you look at what cases apply to that situation, and that's what you make your arguments off of. But
So it's like eviler and eviler and eviler.
yeah, just slowly
further and further away, but yet they never look at the original.
But when you demonize, when the FBI released their domestic watch list,
terrorism,
and you saw what they put on there, that history was, when they burn the books, when they demonize history, when they take down the statues, when they try and erase history, that's when you know you are in trouble. And that's what we've watched for years. It's happened where they started taking down the monuments right here in Lakeland. We watched them. They took the monuments from out of downtown and they put them.
They hid them behind
Monument Park, which is
hidden behind way in the back
way
corner
back in
of the town.
It's like, oh, we're not going to just destroy the monuments, but we're not going to have them downtown front and center. And the Lord talks about that. I forget the verse, but he talks about when you remove the ancient landmarks and when you remove those histories from before the people, it is the beginning of destruction. And that's what they've done. They did it in the courtrooms. They did it in case law, in your lawfare, and then they did it in front of you, right there in the main square where they took the monuments down. And it's just a visual picture of what has happened on the inside, the actual lawfare that's going on in the country, where your government has become weaponized against you, the individual, against you, the citizen, on a huge scale. But tell us a little bit about we've sort of taken over your story.
Sorry, Dom.
I think at this point it's our story. So
Right.
That's right. Oh, I like that.
Man.
The American story.
yes,
The American patriot.
on the subject that you were talking about with the Constitution being eroded, the civil asset forfeitures.
Yeah.
You look at that, you have not only judges, but legislatures who took an oath to uphold the Constitution, made this law that allows law enforcement to seize your property with no wrongdoing. They don't have to arrest you. They don't have to do anything. They can just seize your property because you had money and it could have been possibly used in a drug crime.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all they need. It could have been.
It could be dirty money that
And-
you're trying to.
There's a perfect example of that in Nevada. There was a Marine that lost $87,000 that way when he never was involved in any of these crimes. But that's your federal government that has now monetarily incentivized your local law enforcement to do this because what they call it is an adoption. So the DEA will adopt the case from your local law enforcement agency. When they're done with it, they'll give up to 80% of that money back to your local law enforcement agency. So now you have this whole trail that people have to fight in the courts. Like, where is my money?
Yeah.
Nobody really knows. Do you fight the DEA? Do you fight the local sheriff's office? I mean, which is why they love these joint task force.
Yeah.
Because now everybody's involved. Who do you sue? They do this to people's homes all the time. They break in.
All of them.
Yes. They break in and then do all this
everybody.
damage they don't find the people they're looking for, well, who's going to pay for my home? Oh,
Well, it's like when they raided the different houses. Oh, here, you can just send the bill. Kind of,
it's the marshals' responsibility, and the marshals are like, well,
it's the FBI.
yeah. Oh, and they're like, well,
Homeland
Polk County
Security.
Sheriff was there. Oh,
Yeah.
It's
well,
like that meme with Spider-Man where they're all pointing at each other.
The old Mexican standoff. Can you say that? Is that
No, that's
No, it's called Alien Standoff
politically
now.
incorrect.
but then if you do get your home paid for, that came out of the taxpayers' money. So it's
Yeah, exactly.
all
Oh,
the
yes.
citizens are the ones that got punished. So who's held responsible for them breaking into the wrong home?
That's part of. I really think we have got to look back and re-examine a lot of your. I know they put the protections against you as a citizen being able to go after different law enforcement agencies, but if you don't have the ability to hold them accountable, how are you going to prevent that from happening again? You look at all the swatting and stuff that goes on, and it's like, how do I get a redress of my grievances? How do I prevent this from happening to somebody else? Because yes, it happened to me. You can't change that. How do I prevent it from happening to somebody else? Because that should be the goal. That's what we have laws there to protect the citizens of this country.
Not anymore.
No.
Well, no, we're protecting.
Now there's qualified immunity.
You're protecting the illegals.
Well, I mean, citizen is a very broad scope of people. I think it all depends on what kind of citizen you are. Now, if you're one of those radical terrorists that just believe in all these rights that were given to us forever ago that nobody even remembers, and you think that's gonna, you can actually stand on that stuff, you're a little bit of a radical, and you're kind of scary. So I don't think you're necessarily really the type of American that we're looking for. So those guys can kind of be deemed terrorists. Also, those that are a little more outlaw based, they kind of do whatever they want. Those are also terrorists. Those that think they can park in a handicap spot. All right.
Oh, snap. Now, hold on.
Terrorism.
Any logical thought that I had is now gone.
Now I'm letting y'all know about what's real and
Yeah,
what's not. All right, y'all need to listen up here.
I was following you on
I'm
the
let-
first few.
Yeah,
You got to
no,
the
but this is
handicap.
true.
Oh, well,
these
yeah, there you
guys, no, but
If you think your child,
you
should be
think you
protected
can
in their
step
restroom
over the
at their school?
line, and you think you're still a citizen of the United States, you're wrong. You got another thing coming. As long as you go by the guidelines, I mean, step by step, dot and T, every note and tittle.
And we've done so many of these, and so many
Yeah.
didn't get aired that I don't know what I've said before. But there was a quote
it
that we
again.
read,
Say it again,
and
Big
I don't
Dog.
remember who it's from. I don't remember the exact quote, but he said, basically, your rights are a balloon in a needle factory, and as long as that balloon decides to stay right where it's at, it won't get hit by any of the needles, and it's free to be there. You know,
And you are free.
I don't think you've used that one before.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that is very true. As long as you follow that predetermined, just
Keep your
sort
eyes
of
down. Don't look around. Just keep
conformist.
walking
Yeah.
down the path.
go down that,
Then you're not
that
a danger
tunnel
to society.
The
and
danger.
you don't
Yeah.
I am the danger.
deviate or you don't
Eyes
inflate your
wide
balloon
open.
too much
Full
or
danger.
No, but that's what's crazy is it's amazing how fast they can make you look like an absolute radical and a crazy person. Is you can live a life that's just, I go to work, I lived American dream basically, just trying to buy a home and have a family, and you do stand up for one thing. Oh man, this guy's a complete radical. He's been this way for years.
On the way
I
they
mean,
would-
we must hunt him down, and they make these videos and blast you on the news, and you don't know what to think anymore. I'll see these guys that are blasted on the news now,
Yeah.
and they'll make up a story like, "Oh yeah, this guy's been having dog fights in the back of his house, and I mean, he's a crazy person. We just captured him." And I'm like, he probably just had his own dog out there, and the neighbors called on him, or who knows what. But they made a story about him and absolutely obliterated his name. And, you never know who these people are in their life, because what they did with us was crazy what they made us look like. And those that knew us, were starting to doubt. They were like, well, we want nothing to do with those crazy people. We don't even know them. I'm like, you've known us our whole life. Yet you're trying to make stories up about us.
The girl on my pretrial officer, when she first came to get me my ankle monitor, or to check the house or whatever, when I had my ankle monitor on, she came in, she's like, oh, okay. So this is not what I was expecting. They made it like y'all were on a compound and y'all had like bunkered up and a big wall and all this stuff. We live down a dirt road and we have family all around us, and that's what they needed to make it. We're on a compound, and so she was like shocked. She kept had to show her the house or whatever, and she's like, "Wow, I'm still like trying to get that other thing out of my mind because this is not what I expected at all."
And you look what they did to your guys' videos.
Yeah.
The way they cut and spliced everything. It was so deceptive.
And they'll make it black and
lying.
white sometimes to make it look more like something that they're trying to...
Even more scary.
It was basically lying, how they would remove all context and what was going on around.
Oh, and they take the sound away, too.
Yeah.
They wouldn't.
Or they'll add sound.
But
a little crunchy
I know we
noises
talked about that just a little bit.
It's just like Batman. Pow! Bam!
But when your news media is in bed with the government,
not sleeping around.
Yeah.
Oh, straight up, you follow the
Adultery of
money.
worst kind.
You follow the money, and
Yeah.
But when you don't have any alternative media, it goes right to that. Oh, they live on a compound. Yes, you have cow pastures all around us, so you have barbed wire fences up, barbed wire fences.
And Bob's fences,
That
too.
them old country boys don't know what the difference between barbed wire and barbed wire. Anyway,
You said the same thing twice.
whatever. But yes, you have fences around the property, but it's barbed wire fences. It's not these compound, these 10-foot privacy
Not that there's
fences.
anything wrong with that.
Not-
You have
yes,
the right
you
to
would-
have your own privacy if
and
you want to. I
the-
wish we had concrete walls.
Because
With
Honestly,
Bob's wire
I
on
feel
it.
like I'm in the fish tank right now.
But what do we
but
got to? My
your
bad.
news media, when they don't have anybody to to counterbalance the story, they can run with whatever they want. Whatever they're told is what they run with, and we saw that so many times. So your first instinct, as soon as you hear a news story, is that's
Just
probably
believe
not
it.
true.
Oh,
Nope. Whatever they're saying, whatever they're telling us is probably the exact opposite. But it was crazy, how fast people forgot that. Because we got to see it a lot during, COVID. And I know I've said this before, but you got to see it a lot. But we still believe what the news says. And it's like, you got to shake yourself every once in a while, slap yourself, be like, what are you doing?
I was
Don't
thinking of
listen
that
to them.
same motion. I don't know why. I'm like, I'm not going to slap myself in it.
No, I did.
Yeah. Which I'll say I haven't trusted anyone in the last 10 years. So
Man.
Yeah.
it's easy
I have
not
to
be
remind.
deceived.
I have to
sorry,
remind
big dog.
Joseph every
Yeah.
day that, listen, buddy, I'm not trying to get, hey, I'm your friend. You
okay.
can trust me.
Okay, buddy.
He's like, okay.
Let God
all
be
right.
true
That's
and
what
all
an
men be
FBI agent
liars.
would say. And I try to convince him that we're friends. We're not FBI. I promise.
Remember, it's me.
That's
Or I know why you're nice to me.
Yeah,
You're just taking more notes.
I had a couple more verses that I wanted to read. So we have Isaiah 59:13 through 16. In transgressing and lying against the Lord and departing away from our God, speaking oppression and revolt, conceiving and uttering from the heart words of falsehood. And judgment is turned away backward, and justice standeth afar off. For truth is fallen in the street, and equity cannot enter. Yea, truth faileth, and he that departeth from evil maketh himself a prey. And the Lord saw it, and it displeased him, for there was no judgment. And he saw that there was no man, and he wondered that there was no intercessor. Therefore his arm brought salvation unto him, and his righteousness it sustained him.
wow.
I mean, there's like a couple, I think, key takeaways here. Is they've chosen to lie over having truth. They've chosen to speak oppression and revolt. Which what do what do our politicians do? They speak oppression They speak revolt. Anything that goes against our Constitution is revolt.
Yeah.
You know, and you sit back and you see all the things in our government are playing out like the Bible says it does. You know, and they've turned away from justice. They've turned away from equity. You know, equality and equity are two very different things. Equity means we're all given the same opportunities, you know, but they've chosen to oppress or try to beat down another certain type of people. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also like the fact that, there was no man there to stand against it. God was displeased with this. He's like, where is the intercessor? Where is the man of God that is willing to put himself in between the oppressor, in between the injustice, in between, and make proper judgment?
Yeah.
Man, that's the guy he's looking for, and he does eventually send that. His arm is Jesus Christ, right?
Right.
And that's who we're told to be more like Christ.
Yeah.
I think it's neat, like you said, where there was no man. And you say that kind of stuff to the average pastor, and they will tell you the exact, opposite. We're supposed to not be worldly minded. We stay out of those things. I'm just here to preach. And I'm like, but that's not, that's just a slice of what we're here for. We have been given the truth. We've been given, God's law. And if we're not willing to stand up and tell people when they're wrong and to say, you are oppressing these innocent people, and if you're scared to do it, then are you really a leader like God's called you to be as a pastor? Because a pastor is a leader, and that is what he is. And if he is scared to share truth and actually stand up for those real life things that happen to us every day, this is where God has put us right now. We're not
in heaven yet.
We're not dead yet. We are 100% supposed to share the truth in the gospel, but also stand for righteousness and justice and judgment.
Yeah.
And, because God uses men to carry out his law. And whenever I feel like it's such an easy cop-out that a lot of church people use is, well, God puts in who's, in authority, and we're just staying out of politics and staying out of those things because that's not what we're here for. We're here for just sharing the gospel. And I'm like, that's good, but you're literally just taking a slice of what God gives us,
but a lot of times,
and just running with that and putting everything else to the side.
It could be that we have a lot of preachers and not pastors.
Could be they want their 501c3 to stay. They need that tax exempt to make themselves a little bit of money.
When have you heard of a 501c3 getting revoked? I always hear that. We can't say that because, we might get our 501c3 revoked. I'm like, let's put it to the test. Come on, let's push the bounds a little bit. Have you even gotten a warning? I mean, are you really speaking truth if you've never been warned by a corrupt government?
My little church of 25 people, I can't be saying all that. They might come down on me and on.
But when they say
have to pay some tax,
the whole God puts who's in office, and we just got to live with it. A lot of times it's because we don't do anything that God punishes us with who goes into office and who gets appointed because we haven't done anything. And I feel like it's almost the evil of, what do you call that when you
the judgment,
the sin of
apathy.
When you don't do something, it's considered a sin. Like, to do good and do it not.
Yeah.
To him is a sin. That I feel like is what we get a lot of times, especially nowadays. All this corruption that's been put in is because Christians haven't done anything.
Yeah.
Not because it's just, that's just how it is, and God knows, just pray. No, at some point God wants you to step in. Like, otherwise he would just do everything and wouldn't need people. But yeah,
and I understand.
And they use it as a cop-out.
There's a lot of preachers, and you can't fight every single fight.
Right. That is
you
true.
can't. You'll drive yourself crazy. And, some people have their ministry is over here, and some people their ministry is over here. But those that speak against standing for what's right, and those that speak against, Christians getting into politics and sharing truth, I believe there's something wrong with that. That shouldn't be. And you might that might not be your fight. That might not be where God's put you. But don't speak against it.
Yeah.
Because you don't have the scripture to back it. And, because every scripture you bring to say that we shouldn't, there's 10 scriptures that will say you should. Because you are the light of the world. And if you're not willing to actually be in law and be in the facts and to be in the, the places that actually make a difference in people's lives, then you're putting people that are corrupt in those positions. And then you're going to complain when the world's in turmoil because you're hiding.
Oh, dang.
And
now
you're
we
not
gotta
doing
stay home.
that.
We're not allowed to go to church because they shut us all down.
And it's so
it is what
sad
it is.
because you just want to
Actually,
shake people.
I have an instance of that in these
There
papers.
you go. Sure. Tom.
Tom's papers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget how far down in this paper it is, but
I feel
in
like we're-
Tampa that actually happened.
Yeah, just give us the rough draft.
There was a pastor who decided to keep his church open during a COVID lockdown
Yeah.
that the mayor did. It wasn't even the state. And the Hillsborough County Sheriff came and arrested him for that.
Man, for a city ordinance, which isn't
Yes.
even law.
Correct.
That's crazy.
We saw some crazy things that literally you would never think you would see in America.
So his congregation got together and stormed the jail and went and got him.
We got him out.
Oh, okay.
It didn't happen.
Unfortunately.
the reverse lynching. We're gonna
I
get an innocent man
just
out.
was thinking, not to change the subject or anything, but
Yeah.
how much of the apostles were, straight up outlaws. These guys did not care. They would go in, I don't know how many times they got thrown in jail. And you read the Fox's Book of Martyrs, and really, you hear more of the stories in their writings of after, Jesus died and was risen again, and what they did after, how they carried on their, preaching, and they all died martyrs. It was so sad, but they just kept on doing it. They knew the truth, and they weren't afraid to share it, even though they were thrown in jail. Then God would break them out of jail, or somebody else would break them out of jail, and they'd go right back to preaching
Keep going.
the truth. And but that's the thing. That's why they got thrown in jail, is because the truth was setting people free, and they were realizing that the oppression of Rome and the oppression of whatever state they were in, there's a better way of living, and they had to silence that. Mm-hmm. They could not allow that to get out, because then they could not rule over these free people that knew there was freedom in Christ.
Yeah.
And so these people that are going and preaching this gospel, we have to silence this. We have to do away with this, because now they're not seeing us as their leaders. They're seeing Christ as the leader, and they're going to live however they want according to Christ. And you saw that, and you're like, man, these guys are straight up outlaws. And I heard, there's somebody that had said, going on the run and cutting your ankle monitor, I don't think that's biblical. I don't know where you get that from. But literally, Paul was in jail, locked away, and God broke him out. God opened the gates on him and said, go on, get out of here, man. Keep on fighting. Go on the run. I'm like, what?
Yeah, they lowered Paul down in the basket at the back of a wall.
Escape. And there's, who was it? Was it Peter?
Peter,
There
the
was
one where the chains
Peter.
fall off
Yeah,
and all
Peter.
the gates open up.
Chains fell off, walked out.
He walks in.
And
Which one
I
was
actually
it?
I have a story for that.
Yeah.
When we were in jail, the first sermon that was preached in Orange County after I got put in the Christian pod was that sermon. Was the singing hymns, praising God while you're in jail, and the chains falling off Peter. And then what happened? We all got out of jail.
We all got out.
That's the thing. It literally, we have, like, how can you not believe that Jesus is real and Jesus can guide you through life and, like, give you what you need to get through what you need? And if he sends you on a path, like a journey, or send you through a trial, he's going to get you through it.
Yeah.
And literally, we walked out of jail. Like, walked
It's a
out.
miracle.
And it's like
Yeah.
that. It makes a table before you in the presence of your enemies is like amazing.
It was something, because
like-
when we got out of jail, there was a little restaurant right beside the jail. And we had the night before, they did not want to let us out. So all of us guys, we had linked arms and like, well, I understand y'all have to get your paperwork and all that has to go through. But on the other end of it, our president told us we're free men now. And so we're not going back in those cells. I don't care what y'all have to do or what y'all got to get done on y'all's side, but on our side, we're free and we're not going back in those cells. And they couldn't stand that. You know, they kept threatening to pepper spray us, to drag us into jail and lock those cells because they had to make count. And they're like, your paperwork hasn't come in yet, so you can't just do whatever you want. You're still in our jail. You're still in our custody. And I'm like, we understand that. You know, you've already said it about 300 times. But we're free men.
We looked him in the face and said,
and we're like, just make sure when you pepper spray us and drag us in there, your cameras are on, because we're going to really love to see y'all do this to a bunch of free men. And they knew we were right, because they kept doing, and you don't get away with doing that stuff in federal, jails. And
DC
they
jail,
do,
at least.
they do
love
whatever
pepper
they
spray.
want. And, but they kept like trying to fake us out, like, get in jail, or otherwise we're going to just do it.
I promise this time I'm
promise.
being serious.
I'm being for real this time. And
Right,
we're just like, all of us are sitting there, and all the other inmates that weren't J6ers are all just like, yeah, don't back down. You let them know. You're all free men now. And we're like, don't worry. We've been in jail long enough. We're not going back in those cells. But anyways, we ended up walking out. And all those big wigs, the warden, the marsh, I mean, all these guys that were, constantly trying to convince us we're not getting out and telling us that, y'all don't understand. You're not getting a pardon. We walked to that restaurant and they're all in there sitting down, and we're all just like, hey, finally seen you on the other side. We're not in orange anymore. And they're all just
To be free.
got their heads down. But I thought it's funny how we saw the end of the end of the story in a way. And it's not the end, it's just the beginning, because God showed his power to us. He showed us how much his word is so real. And if we are willing to just tap into it and actually believe in what he says, not in a small sense, or not in a sense of, it sounds good on the wall. You write these scriptures out, and it just, it helps me that I believe he can help me pay the bills. And I believe he can, with these small fights in our life, that's just life. You're going to go through those things, but the real big fights, the serious stuff, he will get you through it, and he'll show you. And I believe he loves when you step out in faith, knowing that there is a cliff in front of you and only God can save you if you jump off, and you jump off full force, as far as you can jump.
Man, I was just talking about that earlier.
And,
oh, my bad.
Yeah.
Keep going.
No, that's it. And it's just amazing, because after, that 4 years of because being on the run and everything, that's a lot of weight. That's a lot of heaviness when you're realizing they're trying to give you, so many. They're threatening 20 years, 18 years, just these crazy numbers that you knew that it couldn't be. And even when we got arrested, you knew, I know it's not the end of the story. I know he didn't just take us through this whole journey and show himself to us so much to just let them win. I know there's more to it. Even if it wasn't Donald Trump, I know somehow we're getting out. And we just had that peace the whole time. And when it finally came through, it wasn't even a surprise. It was just this huge smile on your face. And it was almost like God's like, "Yep, I got you, buddy. Don't even worry about it." And I'm like, I knew it. And you believe it, but once you see it, is in those words come to life. Especially, you read Psalms, and just when David's going through his trial, and the same thing, the king's chasing him for an unjust reason. The king went crazy, and he's running for his life with a bunch of men that he trusted, and they were willing to die beside each other. And and it was just like, man, these scriptures were living out. And it was such an amazing thing. But I'm sorry, I got off track. But
man, let's get back to Tom. Yeah, we were just destroying Tom
We are
over here.
terrible podcast
Man,
hosts.
but
I'm
Tom,
sorry, buddy.
so let's take a step back. Let's recalibrate, right? So you witnessed injustice, you witnessed all these horrible things, and now you're stepping into a political role of sorts, right? So you worked, you got the Republican Assembly of Polk County kind of started. You were nominated president. So kind of like how it said in Isaiah, he said he was looking for a man, and a man stepped up, right? So what can others do to be the man for God. Like that was like a term that our founding fathers used, was to be a man for God or to play the man for God. What can they do to do that? How can they get more active? What were the steps you took to get there?
So my personal case was basically a Bearcat and a bunch of guys with rifles threatening my life to make me realize that the government that we're dealing with now is not the government that's described in Romans 13.
No.
The government in Romans 13, it's supposed to be a sword against evil.
Yeah.
But one of the things I saw while everybody was on a run and whatever, right before I got arrested, was that during this whole time period, the FBI had been, the IG actually did this report that people were reporting sexual abuse on children, and the FBI was not actually handling those. They actually pulled people from, so Stephen Friend, an FBI agent, he testified in Congress. He was assigned to child sex crimes. They pulled him off to chase down J6ers. So it's like, what are your priorities? In this IG report, it mentions actually a 2-year-old that was sexually abused.
Oh my gosh. Hold on. Okay. Our apologies for the interruption. Okay. Our apologies for the interruption. I spilt my second cup of coffee on the laptop. So we're starting over. The other one's in my lap.
If it
Got it on the lap and the laptop.
At least we're only waist up.
if the
Nobody
laptop just catches fire and
That's why.
then
It's
this
my fault.
episode
Hello.
may not get aired.
Yeah, sounds like we're going to be re-recording this one.
But anyways, Tom was just talking about how the FBI was picking and choosing what to go after.
Literally
Tell us
pulling
about it,
people
Tom.
off good cases
Yes.
and putting them on us.
FBI agent Stephen Friend. So he actually testified in Congress about how he was assigned in Daytona, Florida, to go after child sex crimes. They reassigned him to the JTTF to basically track down J6ers. And one of his first cases was an elderly woman that they had already been there to talk to, and they wanted to run a SWAT raid over this. And he's like, I was SWAT. I'm not afraid of using SWAT. It's got its purpose. But this isn't it. So they called him into the office, and they basically told him, you know, where do you see yourself when it comes to your relationship with the FBI in the future? So he was kind of like, well, I took an oath to the Constitution, so if that's the way it's going to be, I don't see us having a relationship in the future.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a lot of them.
And I have a little quick thing I can add. So I'm not going to say at what point it was, because I don't want to get the guys in trouble, you know. But they were FBI, and they were transporting me, and I was like, why are you doing this, basically? And they're like, well, it's my job. And I was like, well, what do you normally do? And they were talking about being that they do that. They do the sex crimes and everything like that. And I was like, I'm just a January 6er here transporting. And they were like, kind of like, dang. Like they were kind of like, this is not, what we signed up for. You could see it in their faces. Like they were going to do it because, they just follow orders. But they were like, this is kind of ridiculous. They didn't know, because they didn't know what I was back there for. They were just told, you're transporting this guy. And, so, and like they probably got pulled, like you said, off of some other assignment, that was probably more profitable, and they got put on some J6er thing, Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we're name dropping Mark Dennis of the FBI, but
We just did.
he came to the shop. I spent probably 45 minutes asking him and his fellow colleagues, I forget their names, but he was the head over y'all's case, and he was the one that took it over from Tim Taylor of the FBI. And
Tim Taylor sucks.
And I asked him that question. I was like, why are you because they were like, hey, we agree with you and your family on most things. You got to answer for your crimes.
We just
and
lie
I'm like,
to get you to say whatever we want
and
you to
I'm
say.
like, what crimes are you talking about? And they were like, oh, well, January 6th. And I was like, people were there to redress their grievances. We had watched that play out for eight months previously. What was different in that case? I'm like, you watched whole cities go up in flames. What was different? And they were like, well, this is just where we got assigned. And I'm like, well, why don't you request a transfer? Why don't you request to do something else? Why are you? And I've got a job to. I've been here 18 years.
Just doing my job.
One of them.
Doing my job.
He was like, it's been my dream to be an FBI agent my whole life. And I asked him, was it your dream to chase down patriots and arrest patriots? And he's like, no, but he didn't have anything to say to that. And I'm like, and then I ask him, at what point do you turn in your resignation papers? At what point do you say, now I'm the bad guy? Now I'm chasing down actual patriots and I'm the empire, I'm the ones going and rounding up the Jedi.
Was that we were going Star Wars reference?
Well,
Execute Order 66. Come
I'm
on,
a nerd.
You could have gone other places, and I think I did.
Go ahead.
I called them SS, but
that's good.
I was a little passionate.
Yeah.
You
Star Wars was based off of.
Was I here at that
whole
one?
event.
No, you weren't here.
Okay.
No, this was they caught me by myself, but you were watching these men hunt down your family members and your friends, and it's like, when are you going to wake up to the realization that you are now working for an evil empire? You are working for the bad guys. You may not be working for Mustache Man, but pretty close.
That's why I kind of brought this out.
Yeah,
Because it's like they're chasing everybody down for what? They know all these kids are being sexually abused, and all they can worry about is the January 6th. That's a shame on you. What kind of adult man are you? That's what you want to do with your life? Like, really? And I heard Cash Patel talking about the men and women, the great men and women of the FBI. No, they all knew this was doing it, and they're all still working there. They're mercenaries. That's what they are. They're just going to kill and maim whatever they have to do for money.
That's why
They have no moral compass.
If we don't see a real shakedown of some of these government, and really, you need some of these agents. The whole agency needs to be eliminated. There's no saving it.
No, that's why it needs to be abolished and just start a new agency.
If
Or
you
don't
even
even-
No federal agencies.
Yeah.
No,
if you even
no
need
federal
it.
ones. All right.
I
Yeah.
You don't want to
I can get
violate
on
the
board with
10th
that.
Amendment.
you have to have some, like the U.S. mark. You have to have some. But do we need 12 different, anti law enforcement? Not anti law enforcement, but anti-terrorism task force. You've got Homeland Security. You've got the FBI. You've got CIA. How many agencies do we need to?
Mm-hmm.
Remember when Tim Taylor
Police
came in
your
there?
people?
Was like, oh no, we're not considering you guys terrorists. But it's like literally, anti-terrorism was just here.
Yeah, it's like.
But apparently, all those plate carriers with that saying that didn't mean anything.
We're just bringing those guys in because we need more firepower.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to interrupt. I'm sorry, I interrupted your.
We made the
your
point
thought.
about the little kids there and how the FBI really didn't care about them.
Well,
But-
it's the
The
same.
federal government didn't care about them.
The same thing with the whole, how many people they put in jail for drugs, for marijuana, and the different things.
But when
we were
you're in
talking
jail,
about
they do
before.
drugs.
Yeah, but in jail, the officers are bringing drugs in. They're giving drugs to people for free. How many people are stuck on Suboxone and over abusing that? And instead of lowering the dose, that's what I saw it over and over and over again. Everybody I feel like that was on Suboxone supposed to be weaning off like a drug high or something. Instead of weaning down their dose while they're there, every one of them, they raised it. And they're at like a max dose by the time they left or by the time they moved to the feds or something. Like, they don't want you off drugs. They want to push drugs so they can fill beds, so they can fill prisons, so they can get you addicted. And then as soon as you get out, you're going to look for something else. You're going to come back. And it's just a vicious cycle of
Return
money.
customers.
Yeah. And they don't care about the people that are in there. They don't care about reform. They don't care about sending them out as better citizens. They care about
Money.
100%.
They want to arrest all the drug dealers on the street
Yeah.
because that's their competition. They don't want.
Yeah.
Well, that's
And
what.
like they can't even stop the officers from bringing it in. They can't even stop but yet they'll, like we were talking about it the other day, they'll ruin people's lives and pull their parents away from their children, moms away from their babies. They're having babies in jail and having to send them out, to family members or sometimes foster care or whatever for the same exact thing that they're bringing in. And they don't care. And they
Yeah,
don't
it's
stop.
like, how can you have a drug problem in prison? It is a contained system.
Oh, yeah.
You control what comes in and out.
I had the same experience, and I was on the 4th floor. So it's like that's even better. Like, how are you
I
getting
was
it
on
up the elevator?
I was on the 7th floor.
There you go.
On the very top. And it's like, no. They know what they're doing, and they even the good cops turn a blind eye to the ones that are bringing it in. They you know who it is. You're working with the same people every day. They knew who it was, and they talk on the phone like back and forth to each other all day long. Oh yeah. They're saying this, doing this, and such is doing that, and they're just as guilty for not doing anything about it as the ones that are doing it. And it's like, yeah, it's all about money. And they just like, well, I don't want to lose my job. Well, I don't want to lose my job. And I hate that word. Like now, that's one of the worst, like,
It's a
just
cop-out.
doing my job. Yeah, said every tyrant in history.
Yes.
No, but that's what we talked about last time. Nobody believes in any moral ground. Nobody believes in anything.
They just,
Yeah. If you're not willing to actually stand on your belief when it actually comes consequences to it and, quit a job because, you know what, they're pushing me to do something I don't believe in, I'm going to quit.
That's wrong.
You don't hear that anymore. Because
Or make
people
them
don't-
fire you. Maybe
Yeah.
do the right thing till they fire you. I don't know if you should just like quit and walk away, but just
I'm done with this.
oppose
Or call
I'm
everything.
going to say
out.
something
Yeah.
about it till they fire me. Don't
Well,
threaten me with a good time.
It becomes you fear for your life at some point when you know too much. It's like the
Matrix.
sergeant at arms for Congress was gunned down in his own yard, had nothing to do with the fact that he was about to testify in front of Congress as to the fact that January 6th was a setup. The man was...
you're just a conspiracy theorist.
Maybe I am.
crazy person.
Maybe
Yes.
I don't trust a runaway federal government agencies that were culpable in the assassination of a president. Maybe I have a little, maybe I have a little bit of doubt. And so, so that it's not to
Yeah, and they haven't gotten less corrupt since then.
right. No, it's been 40, 50, 60, however many years.
Don't you
60.
see the arrests? It's definitely getting less corrupt. There's arrests
So
everywhere.
So, with that foundation laid, with that groundwork laid, you get out, you come, you weren't you were on house arrest, right? You weren't.
21
Yeah,
days, and then
tell your story.
pretty much a year on house arrest, yeah.
Yeah.
Couldn't leave the walls of the house.
And it
Yeah.
wasn't your house. You
Correct.
had to move.
Yes, to my dad's house in Pennsylvania.
Because what was the reason you couldn't stay in your house?
Because I had to be in third-party custody of 2 other adults.
That weren't
Yes, so it was my dad and my sister.
related to any other January high.
Yes, and that's why I wasn't allowed to call. You have a mobile phone, that way I couldn't call anybody that was... They had a list of people I wasn't allowed to talk to.
Oh, it was nuts. You couldn't have a laptop.
Correct,
You couldn't have a smartphone.
correct.
The only thing you could do is watch TV and use the landline.
Correct.
I wonder why that was, because you didn't have.
They weren't
anybody-
tapping anything
You
and
didn't
listening.
have anybody listening to that. But it's crazy. You can't get on the internet. Nope. We don't want you. We want you
So it's
back
actually
in the
pretty funny.
Stone Ages.
My niece went to go get a job, and she knew the people where she was going to work, so she was getting a job no matter what. But for their insurance, they had to do this background check, just semantic stuff. And the people that she was going to work for, they took a picture that she was red flagged for associating with a known domestic terrorist or extremist I was like, that's pretty crazy. Because it was like at that time, the last time I had talked to her was 4 or 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So they were literally watching all of my family. They knew when my sister came down here to get me. She said they started following her from the time she landed in Florida. Before she even made it to the jail, they were following her.
Yeah.
And then you had a little rattleball down there telling her that it wasn't true.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, they'll say all kinds of stuff. That's why I don't believe a word they say. They'll lie to your face, straight face, lie to your face, and then don't even care. That's just what they do. They're trained to lie to you.
But that
Literally,
was
they're
actually
trained.
pretty interesting because my sister was kind of like I was like 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So she believed the government was here to help you. She didn't believe there was real corruption. Maybe there was some bad apples, whatever. Within like 3 days of being here in Florida, she was like, by the way, Jason Bourne's real. He's following me too. And
Yes.
the government's not here to help you.
Yeah. No, that's it.
She was so disgusted, she actually did an interview with a guy that's going to be airing soon, just from her experience. And she didn't even go to January 6th. She doesn't even want to be involved in politics still.
Yeah.
But she saw the lies and the corruption that happened even within the court. She watched the prosecution literally lie.
Mm-hmm.
And not be
It
held
drove her
accountable.
to say, like, what are my grandkids going to deal with?
Yeah.
People have to know what I saw.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And for her, it's kind of hard because of her job. So who knows what they can do to her?
Yeah. Yeah, because
No,
once you
yeah.
speak out, you're a marked target. You're
Right.
you're on the chopping block.
Yeah.
So you're watching that, and that led you to
Actually start reading the Constitution, looking at what's going on around me, and starting to make these, like, compare and contrast things. Like we were just talking about, look, how are we going after J6ers when all this stuff is happening? How do I have constitutional rights to be free from illegal search procedures when you have civil asset forfeitures? You can just keep going over and over, and you start realizing every single one of your constitutional rights are violated. And the only reason they can do it is because there's men with guns that will kill you if you try to stand up for your rights.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the FBI that's literally going against acts of Congress. So like the Militia Act, that Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah.
So he got off for being in possession of an AR at 17 because he's part of the unorganized militia, which is an act of Congress. You have Kansas City, federal judge overturned possession of a machine gun because the federal government can't restrict military weapons to those people in the militia, which that's everybody between the ages of 17 and 45. But then the FBI is saying, well, if you even talk about that, you're a possible militia violent extremist. And then they're warning all your local agencies that that's what you might be.
Yeah. They don't just say it. They go out of their way.
Yes.
to tell
Watch you.
everyone else. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because they went door. We had, I don't remember who it was, my aunt or my uncle or something was getting their tires changed, and they had gone into the tire shop, and he said literally while they were there, they had somebody go up to the counter with pictures of us going around to store asking, be on the lookout for these people. They're yada yada yada. Saying our names and our families, and was going on to asking everybody, and yeah, granted we had a reward on our head, but they do the same thing for people before that, like, because they're like, oh yeah, we got questioned about y'all before y'all were arrested, and and told how crazy you are, and like they're like, no, I know these people, like they've lived there their whole lives, like I know these people. That ain't true. But the ones who didn't know us, didn't know a backstory or have any history with us, they're like, oh gosh, I didn't even realize, and they live right down the road. And
Yeah.
The
Shiver me timbers.
the oblivious person, the
Oblivious granny, they're just
neighbor.
gonna-
Yeah.
God.
Oh my, bless my soul.
sorry, I didn't mean to point out old granny down the road, but that's how it is. You can't believe anything they say because they could come to your door and say something.
Whatever
You
they
don't know.
want.
It's speculation. That's the thing. All the news articles, all the any write-ups or any kind of post that they did online was all from your indictment. And it's all speculation. They take the pictures and they say they're at this time and they had brought all this stuff for these reasons and all this stuff. You're not convicted. You haven't gone to trial. All of it, they can write up whatever they want.
Yeah, none of it's actually been
proven. That's the evidence
proven.
that they use. And it's not even evidence. It's not real evidence. It's just speculation of what they think your reasoning was for doing it. And that's what everybody uses. It could be anything.
Yeah. And man, we keep on going off on rabbit trails, but like, so I guess the original thing we were going after here was what we know what got you in it, but how did you get in it? How do you get into local politics? What'd you do? What was your steps?
Oh,
Ones if other people want to make a Republican assembly of I don't know what Hillsborough County,
Palmetto,
some
Bush
Haka,
County.
Well, if that's what you're looking at doing, go to the Republican Assembly of Florida's website. You can request to have someone come up and have a meeting with you, actually talk about what we do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really going to be about organizing the voice of the people, because that's something that we're not really good at on this side of the aisle, is getting everybody organized. So we know, because we talk to our neighbors and the people that come in the store, we know what people think.
Yeah.
But we can't get everybody to be unified into one voice.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what this is going to be about. Getting everybody to get on board, look at the different bills that are passing. Since I've actually been doing this, I get all the time a call to action, which is a new bill that's being passed just in the state of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how do you, when all this is going on and every day you get 2 or 3 different policies or laws, whatever they're doing, how do you get the voice of the actual people to go ahead and tell our representatives yes or no? Because they don't really care what you think. They're only going to vote on what's good for their pocketbook.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we're doing. And then we're going to try to find the rhinos, find the people who shouldn't be in politics, that are really a downfall to our country. Try and find others that we think can actually do this. Try and help them get trained up. Try and run them against those politicians. See if we can actually get good men in our government.
In leadership.
So yeah,
positions.
if there's some people in Polk County then who are good men, men of integrity, men of honor, men of God, get hooked up with RAPCA, Republican Assembly of Polk County, and let's get you trained up and start taking some of these spots.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which-
because that's the only way you're going to turn it around is if you find the bad, which right now I feel like you could just line them all up and point, and you're going to find a bad one.
Wow. Okay, good. I was wondering where that was going. I was like, oh, we're getting spicy.
No.
Saying the quiet part out loud.
Hey, but we were all thinking it now. But so really, I mean, you could put good people in if you're a good person with some common sense, I feel like you could go in there and do a better job than the ones that have been running it for so long. Because it's like you look, and this is just local stuff, but everybody I talk to, nobody wants what's going on most of the time in politics. But it's like, how do you hold your elected representatives accountable? When we go to vote, are we going to remember those things that these jackwagons have done? No, most of the time we don't. They've got an R by their name, so I guess I'll vote for them.
That's exactly what happened.
At the top.
And it's like, no, we need to get involved in the primaries and get these guys out, or gals, whoever it is, get them out and send them packing, because they're not listening to the voice of the American people. They're working for special interests. They're getting paid on the back. Somehow they're getting, because when they run, they sound great. They sound like, hey, they're going to go up there and they're going to represent us, whether it's a county seat, whether it's, county commissioners, whether it's the Florida congressional, wherever it's at. And then somehow they get up there and they do the
forget all
exact
about
opposite of what we, the American people, want.
Yeah.
So one of the ways that we're going to go about trying to do this, like I was saying, organizing the voice, is once you become a member, we're going to be looking out for all the new bills that are going through.
Yeah.
And we're going to either email, text. We're still in the process of figuring out how that part works. But the goal here is going to be everybody that's a member is going to get a text or an email with all of our voting representatives. And that way you can call directly, whether it be through email, phone calls directly to our representatives, that, yes, we don't want this. No, we don't want that to happen. Whatever it is. That way they can't just go do what they're going to do and hide their head in the sand like nobody's paying attention.
God, nobody even told me that y'all didn't want this.
And the scary part about this is once you start getting these emails and you start realizing how many laws are being passed every day,
insane.
You're like, I'm surprised I'm free at all. At this point,
There's
you're not.
new laws every day.
Yes.
It's like, and how long has this been going on for? For years. How many laws do we have on the books?
Oh, thousands.
Yeah.
We got the library.
Herbie used to say the saying is you can indict a bologna sandwich.
Yeah.
Or a ham sandwich. One of
Yeah.
the two. And it's that there's so many laws, you can just apply whatever one you want.
And
it's at what point they want to come get you.
Right.
Right.
It's at what point do you become enough trouble to go after?
Oh,
And
I
it's-
feel special.
It's
I've never been so wanted in my entire life.
Thank you. At least somebody wants me.
At least the government loves me.
At least Mark Dennis and
They gave
Radaball
me a-
used to be wondering where I was at.
Give me a 5-star
I'm pretty sure they're still
hotel.
watching. Don't worry about
They're
it.
still
Here.
watching.
man.
I wonder if Bennett
Poor-
Carney still thinks about me.
Oh,
Probably.
Oh,
She
loved
it.
you.
This guy again.
poor Joey.
But no, that's good. I like that a lot. Just normal guys getting into politics, trying to, actually become the men we're called to be, and men and women actually standing up for what's right. Because as Christians, that's what we're called to do.
That's right.
100%, no doubt about it. You are called to be the light in the world. And, when we step up and, this might seem like a small thing to start a little group, trying to find out what's going on locally, but at least it's something,
Yeah.
and it could grow into something big. And I'm just, proud of Tom stepping up, being that man, because all of us feel like we're not qualified to do it. Whenever we look at the grasp the whole situation and see the title, I believe it's the title, we say we're not worthy of that kind of title, to be a leader in this way, or to be a president of such a thing, or this or that. There's probably somebody out there that's, could actually do it better. But then that person never comes, and that thing never gets started.
And don't worry. It's not a title. You're not a leader. You're a servant. So there's nothing to worry about there.
Yeah. No, and that's how you should see it. You get into or start a group like this to actually help people see what's going on. And I think that's the main thing. That's what opened my eyes a lot is, ever since Tom started this thing, just seeing how much goes on locally. Just like he said, the laws that go through and the crazy stuff that's trying to get passed all the time. I come in from work and I seen Tom. He stopped by the house and he's sitting there covered in paperwork, trying to figure all this, all this stuff they're getting sent. I'm like, dang,
we have
Tom,
to
that's-
incorporate,
Yeah.
which I found to do. But it was crazy to me that somebody's getting paid to send what I filed back and reject it because in the name I put CO instead of CORP. So it's against the law for us to be the Florida Republican Assembly of Polk County CO. It's like, so the world's coming apart if I put CO? I mean, we really had to pay somebody
Yeah.
to... It can't...
No, it's so stupid.
You got to have order.
You try
Order,
to
Tom.
you try to file your taxes and
Yes.
same thing. Like I'm trying to pay you. I'm not trying to, but I'm having to pay you. And yeah,
You'd think you'd want it
Hey.
easy, but you make it
Well,
super
they-
hard.
but then
and
as
then
soon
they're
as
going
you
to
don't
come
file
after
right,
you if you don't file
they
it
have
right.
to pay
That's-
you.
that's why
they
they
can
make
take as
it
long as
Yeah,
they want.
what do you
It's
call
the
it?
whole opposite.
Awesome little meme. It was like, IRS, you owe me taxes. Me, how much? IRS, I don't know. Guess. Me, $600, IRS, prison.
I'm coming now.
Straight to jail.
Oh no. Yeah.
I'm tired
No,
of this.
they make it complicated just for that, so that you do go straight to jail. Do not pass go.
Straight to jail.
Do not collect your $200.
Yep.
We joke, but it is serious. I mean, that's why if we could see, Trump keeps hinting, hey, we made. Sorry, guys. The coffee finally seeped into the computer and killed our audio port, so we don't have the sound for the rest of this video, which we were already starting to wrap up, so that works out. But we really appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to us. We want to thank Tom for bringing the receipts here on the episode. It was a really good episode. Hopefully it encouraged y'all. Check us out on Rumble at Sons of the Warrior, our new Rumble channel. Thank y'all so much. We'll catch you again next week.